Beware the subtle deception. 3 miraculous choices that could lead you away from divine blessings. In the quaint English village of Eldermere, where the air hummed with the sweet fragrance of blooming roses and the church steeple pierced the sky, Eleanor McCarthy stood as an unwavering beacon of faith. Known for her fervent prayers to St. Jude, the saint of lost causes, she found solace in her community, as steadfast as the thick stone walls of St. Mary's Church. But when her beloved husband David fell gravely ill, doctors delivered haunting news that roiled her spirit. Little hope remained. The world she cherished stood on the brink of despair. Days turned into harrowing nights as Eleanor paced beneath the flickering glow of candlelight, whispering prayers laden with tears. "How can this be, dear St. Jude?" she implored, each breath heavy with longing. But in her desperation, the local priest, Father Thompson, committed her to the fabled therapies. "What if I told you," he uttered, voice tinged with urgency, "that healing lies not only within the bounds of science?" His gaze glimmered with possibilities that blurred the lines between hope and folly, a potent remedy involving potions, amulets, and whispers of enchanted tomes. A soft wind rustled through the trees as he spoke, of miracles from distant lands. Eleanor's heart warmed and chilled simultaneously. Should she dare to step off the well-trodden path of prayer into this uncharted territory? She felt the weight of her neighbors' glances, their hope intertwined with hers, their expectations heavy as lead. With her spirit quaking, she opined, could these choices be a divine test? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days morphed into a swirl of preparations. Eleanor conjured every charm and concoction as hope ebbed and flowed. As her heart danced between faith and doubt, the villagers' collective whispers filled the air like an approaching storm, laden with ominous omens and flickers of faith. Yet amidst this turmoil, Eleanor unfurled her prayers in quiet moments, heart yearning for clarity. She sensed a murmur in the wind, a divine presence drawing near. On one fateful evening, under the ethereal glow of a harvest moon, the church bells tolled, and a profound hush captured Eldermere. In that stillness, the miraculous unfolded, the flicker of light in David's eyes as he awoke, the comfort of hands clasped tightly around her trembling fingers, the village's steadfast love swirling about them like a protective blanket. But Eleanor wrestled with a chilling realization. Perhaps the true miracle wasn't solely about David's healing. Instead, it was the rekindling of bonds, the strength of a community, the unwavering devotion she had overlooked amid her frantic quest for quick repairs. As she faced the crossroads of her own heart, she pondered the question that hung over her. Would her journey lead to the tender embrace of faith, or the sweet temptations of deceit? The heavy toll of the church bells echoed her soul's turmoil. What divine manifestation awaited her on this tenuous path where faith and doubt collided? The days following David's awakening were both a blessing and a burden. Eleanor walked the sun-dappled streets of Eldermere, her heart brimming with gratitude, yet a shadow loomed. The villagers rejoiced, their voices lifting in new hymns of hope. Yet it was the whispers of Father Thompson's words that echoed in her mind, casting ripples of uncertainty. She struggled with the possibility that her journey might still be veering from divine intentions. As the village gathered for Sunday service, Eleanor took her place in the pew, surrounded by familiar faces lit with joyful anticipation. Each face reflected a piece of her heart, each heart held together by faith, trembling in response to the uncertainty brewing within her. The notes of the church organ swelled and fell, guiding the congregation through a sacred dance of worship. But even amidst the sacred music, Eleanor's spirit remained restless. Father Thompson stepped to the pulpit, his countenance earnest under the warm glow of stained glass. With each word, he painted pictures of unwavering trust, exalting the pure essence of faith as a light guiding the lost. True healing, he preached, comes not from relics or potions, but through the grace of God alone. Yet his earlier encouragement echoed in Eleanor's mind, blending with her desire to believe in something more than the physical realm. After the service, Eleanor lingered, cloaked in thought, while others mingled with laughter and prayerful exchanges.
The scent of incense spun in the air like a soft embrace, yet all she could sense were fragments of doubt weaving through her heart. She caught whispers. Villagers exchanged glances, speaking hushed tidings of miraculous occurrences, things that slipped from divine hands into superstitious charm. In an uncharacteristic moment of boldness, Eleanor sought out Father Thompson. "Father," she implored, eyes shimmering with a mix of hope and uncertainty, "what if the true path to healing lies beyond mere faith and prayer, but in a trust forged by actions and beliefs intertwined?"
Father Thompson studied her for a long moment, his brow furrowing with both concern and compassion. "Eleanor, faith is a precious thread, woven finely between belief and trust. To diverge too far into those shadows may lead you to a path where the light cannot penetrate. We must tread carefully." Those words permeated Eleanor's thoughts long after her conversation. They wrapped around her like vines, complicating her once simple faith. She returned home, David resting peacefully, yet an unsettling sense of duality plagued her thoughts. That night, as she knelt by the bed, illuminated only by candlelight, she felt the weight of her choices. She sensed the divine presence much stronger than before, swirling gently through the dim light. "Show me the way, dear St. Jude," she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. "Guide my heart in the midst of this unclear journey." And just as she uttered those words, a soft breath of wind pushed through the slightly ajar window, carrying with it the dulcet tones of distant chimes, each ring entwined with her thoughts: healing, community, trust, and the peril of straying too far from the divine. There, she made a resolution. She would seek the hidden truth, discovering not just the healing of David, but also what it meant to truly believe. All around her, the world felt transformed, rivers of fate swirling toward a confluence. But she couldn't shake the looming question that would soon arise. What if the tattoos of doubt traced deeper than I dare to explore? As the dawn approached, painting the heavens in shades of gold, Eleanor knew she was only at the opening of this transformative chapter. Yet, could faith withstand the trials yet to come? The threads of divine mystery began to weave tighter. What further revelations awaited her on this vocal path? Eleanor awoke to the hush of dawn, its soft light spilling through her window like a blessing from above. She brewed herself a cup of tea, the steam curling upward like a whispered prayer. Her heart still pulsed with questions, and yet amidst them, a flicker of determination began to light her way. Today was the day she decided to act. No longer merely a vessel for doubts, she would strive to find clarity. After a humble breakfast, she dressed in simple clothes, her spirit stirring as she prepared to consult the villagers who had been touched by the recent mercies. Each encounter would be a step closer to deciphering her own heart's true desires. Stepping outside, she felt the sun kiss her face, an embrace that urged her onward. She strolled through the village, taking note of how a once quiet Eldermere hums with renewed life. Laughter erupted from the bakery, where Mrs. Hargrove prepared fresh loaves for eager customers. Eleanor paused, the warm aroma wafting toward her. "Mornin', dear," Mrs. Hargrove called, brushing flour from her hands. "Have you heard? Young Thomas is on the mend thanks to the herbs from old man Evans."
"Just the other day, I saw him playing with the children again." Eleanor smiled, but her heart swayed between joy and an echo of apprehension. Is it truly the herbs, or something more profound? The thoughts whirled in her mind, each one compelling her to dig deeper. She continued her journey to the riverbank, where the village often gathered for council and celebration. The babbling waters sparkled in the sun, promising parables of renewal. She found Miss Hawthorne sitting beneath the willow, reading her Bible in the dappled light. Eleanor approached with a gentle greeting, wondering if Miss Hawthorne's wisdom could illuminate yet another facet of her quest. "Ah, Eleanor, come, sit with me a while," Miss Hawthorne invited, her eyes twinkling like hidden gems. They exchanged pleasantries before Eleanor broached her inquiry. "Do you believe that trust in God is enough for healing, or should we seek active paths?" Miss Hawthorne pondered, then replied, "Dear child, faith can be like a seed, small yet mighty. However, let us not forget that it must be nurtured. Sometimes to extend our hands is to demonstrate our faith, yet always, always, we must tread on the sacred ground where faith and actions meet. Eleanor felt her heart swell in understanding. Perhaps it was not only about seeking answers, but also about what lay behind her intentions. What if every action she took could be a reflection of her devotion? As she left the riverbank, moving through the village, every familiar face seemed to merge into a single tapestry of kindred spirits, woven with shared faith. In that moment, she felt called to gather the village. What if we could explore the collective miracle of our faith in action, she mused silently. Back home, David stirred, a sleepy smile spreading across his face at the sight of Eleanor. The innocence of his gaze tugged at her heart, filling her with electricity. "I wish to hold a gathering tonight, my love," she whispered. As night approached, the sky darkened, but her heart was illuminated with purpose. She wondered if this moment might bring clarity to the question that haunted her soul. Would seeking the intertwined paths of faith and action reveal the deeper truths she sought? Eleanor prepared a simple gathering in their small living room, candles flickering in the dim light. Tonight she would bring forth the voices of those around her, each one a note in the divine symphony. They would share stories, experiences, and perhaps uncover the mysteries of healing that stretched beyond mere faith. But deep within her, she could not quiet the query. Would they find unity in their exploration, or would the shadows of doubt creep into the light? An unshakable need for answers echoed through the evening air. What awaited them on this journey together? The gathering began with the soft glow of candles, each flicker casting gentle shadows that danced along the walls.
Eleanor's heart swelled with anticipation as the villagers started to filter into her home. She welcomed each one, their smiles illuminating the space like the stars that twinkled above. One by one they settled into the humble room, forming a circle that felt both intimate and sacred. Eleanor's gaze flickered from face to face, recognizing familiar kindness, a shared bond that seemed to pulse with energy. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility for the journey they were about to embark on. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady yet warm. "Tonight I invite you to share your stories, stories of hope, healing, and the beautiful ways our faith has intertwined in our lives. We will listen like the river listens to the earth, tenderly and with love." A murmur of agreement filled the room. Miss Hawthorne settled into her chair, the book she often read still cradled in her lap. "What a blessed opportunity, Eleanor. Stories have power in the divine tapestry." Eleanor nodded, heartened by her friend's affirmation. She felt the invitation to share her own journey stir within her, a thread woven into the larger fabric of community. As the evening drifted along, the air became fragrant with laughter and testimony. Old Mr. Parker spoke first, his voice rising like the sun after a storm. "I remember the time I was lost in despair. I felt the world pressing down on me, heavy like a boulder. But then, on a rainy day, a stranger offered me an umbrella. The simplicity of that act of kindness pulled me back to faith. It reminded me that even small acts can have a grand impact." His words hung in the air, clinging to the hearts of the listeners. They nodded, understanding deeply the truth of his revelation. The stories flowed like the river outside. Some were joyous, others filled with pain, but every narrative echoed the same truth, the hand of God at work in their lives. Each tale revealed the intertwining of faith and action in profound ways. When it was Eleanor's turn, her voice trembled slightly. "As I pondered today, I realized something vital. Each of us carries a search for healing within, shaped by our own trials. We may have varying paths, but it is the unity of faith that binds us, right here and now." The room felt pregnant with understanding as her words cascaded over them. Just then young Clara, sitting cross-legged on the floor, raised her hand eagerly. "But what if we feel alone in our struggles? What if doubt finds us when we dare to act?" Her innocence struck a chord, and gasps of recognition filled the space. Eleanor felt the weight of that question pressing on her heart. "Ah, Clara, all we can do is embrace our doubts alongside our faith. But in community, in vulnerability, we bear each other's burdens. We must believe God is faithful in both darkness and light." A hushed silence fell upon the room as each listened, mind and heart open. The flickering candles cast a divine glow, and suddenly it became clear. Every voice mattered, every wound shared transformed into strength. Yet even amidst this sacred discourse, Eleanor sensed an undercurrent of doubt. Shadows whispered that they could falter in their mission for unity. Would they truly find strength together, or would fear of the unknown seep into their hearts? As they continued to share stories that night, Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that something greater was to come. What revelation awaited them as they journeyed deeper into the mystery of faith, of trust, and of connection? All wondered if they were perhaps on the edge of something miraculous, or something that could lead them away from God's divine blessings. What would next illuminate their shared path? The atmosphere swirled with emotion, tension and anticipation tightly woven into the fabric of their gathering. Eleanor's heart pounded, not just from nerves, but from a profound sense of wonder about the evening. It was a simple meeting transformed by the energy of shared stories, like rivers converging into a grand ocean. The light from the candles danced, reflecting the flicker of hope in each heart. As the stories flowed, Eleanor recognized the mysterious way God works through people. She could feel His presence weaving strands of grace, igniting faith through their shared struggles and joys. A soft voice broke through the stillness. It was Sarah, with her deep brown eyes brimming with tears, yet shining brightly. "I've always wrestled with the idea of trust," she confessed. "There was a moment last year when my husband's health declined. I prayed fervently. I begged God for healing. And when healing didn't come in the way I wanted, I wavered." A murmur of concern rippled through the circle. Eleanor felt the weight of Sarah's words. They were raw, vulnerable. "But it was after I let those feelings of doubt wash over me," Sarah continued, "that I found a different kind of healing. I realized God had not abandoned me. His love guided me in the support of my community. Maybe, just maybe, my healing wasn't meant to look the way I envisioned." The room sighed softly, recognizing that healing may come in unexpected forms. Eleanor sensed a collective awakening. This was the essence of their gathering, to embrace both faith and unspoken fears. A warm smile spread across Clara's face. "So we're not alone, even when we feel like we are?" Eleanor nodded. "Exactly, dear one. Just as a flower needs both sun and rain to bloom, we need each other through both joy and sorrow." A brief silence enveloped the space, pregnant with understanding, and was swiftly followed by the sound of Miss Hawthorne's voice, breaking the spell. "Together, we can dismantle the shadows of doubt. We can lift each other towards the light." As the night unfolded, laughter filled the air, blending seamlessly with deep reflections and occasional tears.
Each story was like a thread, uniquely vibrant, yet part of the same divine quilt of faith. Eleanor felt that familiar flutter in her chest, the inkling of something stirring, an excitement mixed with trepidation that hinted at the importance of their gathering. A tall shadow flickered at the window, nearly unnoticed until Mr. Parker glanced toward it. The night air seemed to chill a little more, a sudden reminder of the outside world's harshness. "It's easy to be swayed by the storms outside," he murmured. "Doubt is like that cold wind. It can cut and chill even the most every warm heart." Eleanor felt a shift, an electric burst of energy. And it is in that very moment of doubt, the choice we make becomes crucial. Will we lean into faith or retreat in fear? An expectancy hung heavy in the air. Everyone felt the gravity of their choices. "What if we were to approach our struggles as an opportunity?" Eleanor added, her voice steady. "What if our faith gives us the platform to create something miraculous from our pain? Focus on unity, not separation," she urged. Each person weighed her words, eyes glimmering with thought. The flickering candlelight caught their reflections, showing their untapped potential, desires, and the collective heartbeat of fragile humanity longing for God's grace. As Eleanor's invitation filled the room, her heart raced with exciting dread. She sensed the pivot point approaching, a glorious moment that could steer their shared journey towards redemption or risk them losing sight of God's shining path. Would they embrace the miraculous potential within their struggles, or would they allow doubt to lead them astray? What divine choice awaited them next, and would they have the courage to walk forward into the light? A hush fell over the room, thick with anticipation. The gentle glow from the candles illuminated faces filled with contemplation and longing. Eleanor felt the weight of the moment pressing upon her like a warm embrace. The air hung heavy with possibility. Every eye in the circle seemed to draw closer, awaiting her next words, sensing the gravity of the journey they stood on the cusp of. "What if," she began,
her voice soft yet steady. "The choices we make in our moments of doubt are the very keys to unlocking a deeper understanding of who we truly are. What if acceptance and courage, even in hardship, ignite the flames of hope we never knew burned within us?" A ripple of murmurs cascaded through the gathering, each person digesting the depth of her inquiry. Sarah wiped a tear from her cheek and nodded, her brown eyes brighter than before. "It's like breathing life into a withered tree," Clara added softly. "It takes intention, a conscious choice, to nurture those roots when everything seems barren and dry." Eleanor felt a surge of inspiration in the room, like a breeze that rustles leaves on a hidden path. "Yes," she exclaimed. "Together we can water those roots."
We can encourage and uplift each other in times of uncertainty. Each act of love, each trust bestowed, ripples through our spirits. Mr. Parker leaned forward, his brow furrowed, the firelight casting waves of shadows across his face. But what if our attempts are met with silence? What if those we turn to for support let us down? That can feel most painful, can it not? The betrayal of hope? Eleanor took a breath, reminding herself that each voice carried weight. Even in the silence, God is perhaps inviting us to seek Him more deeply, to find that unshakable ground within us. Faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's that quiet knowing that breathes peace into our storms. The room resonated with a collective realization. The flickering lights danced like unspoken prayers, cradling their fears and lifting their spirits. There was a softness as everyone began to relate their silent struggles, sharing glimmers of light amidst shadows. "I struggled with abandonment after losing my mother," Sarah shared, her voice solid though tender. "I often felt alone, yet those times compelled me to seek God in new places, to understand His love, how it flows through even in heartache." The unity of their stories grew stronger, like a fragrant tapestry woven from broken threads. Eleanor smiled, feeling the warmth of their connectedness. A fragile yet powerful strength emerged from vulnerability, an unyielding trust in divine grace. "Yes," Eleanor declared, raising her hands, "there is always hope, even in the unknown. Let's alight the candle of possibility within ourselves. What if, instead of often asking, 'Why me?' we asked, 'What can I learn from this?'" A soft light glimmered in Mr. Parker's eyes, and in that quest for understanding, we draw closer to each other, closer to Him, even in our questioning. They sat together in quiet contemplation, sensing an uplift in the atmosphere. The shadows outside became less menacing, replaced by the warmth emanating from their shared gathering. Eleanor felt a gentle nudge within her spirit. At the heart of our struggles, we can find a sacred calling, a choice that leads us to miracles. As their hopeful hearts synced in the moment, Eleanor offered a delicate prayer, her voice laced with fervor. "May we find the courage to step into the light. Together, let us ignite the fire of faith and dismantle the shadows, and may every choice bring us closer to His love." As the circle closed around a flame of unity, they all felt it, a transformative call to action. Something shifted in the air, sparking an electricity of expectancy. Eleanor's heart raced as she sensed it deep within. What miracle was about to unfold? What divine calling lay hidden in their collective response to this moment? Would they heed the invitation to explore the extraordinary? Only time would tell. Eleanor took a moment to absorb the atmosphere, the kind of stillness that felt charged with anticipation. The candles flickered softly, casting golden light across eager faces. It was as if each flame held secrets waiting to be unveiled. "Let us not just sit in this warmth, but venture deeper," she urged, her voice rich with determination. "What can hinder our journey? What subtle deceptions might lure us away from the blessings that God desires for us?" A pause filled the air, thick with realization. Sarah's eyes widened, and she glanced at Clara, who looked equally contemplative. Mr. Parker shifted in his seat, his expression reflecting the very weight of the question. Eleanor pressed on. "We must be vigilant, for sometimes the path of doubt can appear inviting, even comforting. It whispers sweet nothings that entrap us in cycles of despair. Choices, my friends, hold immeasurable power. They can draw us into his light or lead us into shadow. Clara spoke up, her voice breaking through the stillness. But how do we discern those choices? Often we think we know what we want, what feels right at the moment, yet the heart is tricky. With prayer, Eleanor answered quickly, her heart racing. It is in prayer that we find clarity. We seek guidance in the quiet moments, listening for his still small voice. Let our choices echo his will rather than our fleeting desires. The words resonated deeply, and murmurs of agreement spread through the circle. The very air vibrated with the communal quest for understanding. I often think of Jonah, Mr. Parker interjected. He ran from God's call. His desire led him far from where he was meant to be. It wasn't until he found himself in darkness, swallowed by fear, that he recognized the truth. Only then did he hear what God had been saying all along. Eleanor nodded, her heart stirred. Exactly. Sometimes it takes being engulfed by our own choices to awaken, pushing us to cry out for help. But in that cry, we find the opportunity to choose differently. Sarah raised her hand gently, as if she were in a classroom, eager and eager. It seems we have a choice every day then, to either respond to divine nudges or ignore them, like murmuring winds just beyond our reach. Exactly, Eleanor said, her excitement bubbling. But what if we chose to open our hearts to those nudges? Each day could become a miraculous journey. The group leaned into the conversation, faces aglow with inspiration. Each member was triggering an unfolding narrative of personal reflection, sharing their experiences and seeking clarity in daunting choices. Eleanor looked around, her heart full. You see, friends, when we embrace vulnerability and seek understanding, we break the chains that bind us to complacency. Miraculous choices emerge when we shift from fear to faith. What if we dedicated this week to listening, to making one conscious choice aligned with what we believe God is guiding us to do? The proposal hung in the air, a commitment that stirred anticipation. Clara smiled warmly.
I choose to invite someone to share my faith journey. I think it will be a chance to grow. I'll reach out to an old friend, Sarah said, her voice filled with warmth. Perhaps they too are searching for something, and I can help light the way. As each heart shared, the air thickened once more with a sacred kind of energy. This was not merely a gathering, it was a community yearning to break barriers, to uplift each other in divine unity. Eleanor clasped her hands together, invigorated. Together, we can cultivate those choices. We can bear witness to the miracles that happen when we align our intentions with his heart. As the circle gradually closed, Eleanor sensed the divine invitation intensifying. Was it possible that among them, this week would reveal the extraordinary, flourishing from their humble commitments? The question lingered in the air, sweetly charged with possibility, waiting to unfold in miraculous ways. What awaited them in this sacred journey of choices? Only time would reveal. As the candles continued to flicker, their flames dancing in harmony with the conversation, Eleanor sensed a quiet resolve gathering within the group. The moment felt pregnant with promise, each heart brimming with the intention to act upon their aspirations. Yet she could not shake a lingering thought. Was it truly as simple as listening and choosing? Let us reflect on the nature of these divine nudges, Eleanor began again, her tone more contemplative. What do they look like, and how can we recognize them in our busy lives? Clara leaned forward, her brow furrowed. I've often felt nudges in the quiet of morning when I sit with my Bible and journal. It's as if God whispers through my pen. But then life pulls me in 1,000 directions, and I forget that intimate moment. Exactly, Eleanor's excitement returned. Those moments are sacred, but we must protect them. How often do we allow noise to drown out the whispers of his guidance? Each distraction is a temptation to step away from his path. Mr. Parker nodded knowingly, a glimmer of realization in his eyes. Distraction can wear many masks. The lure of busyness, even in service, can lead us off course. It's a subtle deception. We think we are doing good, but we may be losing sight of our true calling. Then how do we strike that balance? Sarah's voice held a hint of urgency. Eleanor smiled gently. By creating space in our lives for the Spirit to move. Imagine if we set aside evenings for prayer or quiet reflection. Just a few stolen moments a day can redirect our choices as we listen for his will. The group seemed to embrace this idea, their faces brightening with possibility. It felt pivotal. Eleanor sensed that they were standing at a crossroads, and this was their moment to choose anew. Picture this as a garden, she continued, energized by her metaphor. We must tend to it, nourish it with prayer and faith. If we do not, weeds of doubt can grow,
choking out the joy and hope we've sowed. Each little choice we make, like watering or pruning, impacts the whole. And sometimes the smallest choice can yield the greatest harvest. In this intent, we must be bold, Clara exclaimed, her fervor contagious. What if we committed to taking that little step every day? What if we shared our nudges with one another? Let us encourage each other, Sarah added, her enthusiasm rising. A text or call, a reminder to seek his presence together. Eleanor felt a surge of excitement at the thought that this week could indeed become extraordinary. Yes, let's pledge to share our experiences daily, however small. We can be each other's lights, illuminating the path as we walk in step with the Holy Spirit. As they exchanged ideas, the energy shifted, becoming palpable. This circle was more than mere words. It transformed into a sanctuary of faith and support, a living testament to what fellowship could create. But then, in the midst of their discussions, a sudden stillness fell as a thought lingered unspoken among them. What if, in their earnestness to pursue and share divine nudges, they inadvertently lost sight of quiet discernment? Eleanor sensed this tension, a gentle reminder of the delicate dance of faith. Had they put too much weight on their own efforts? What if our eagerness leads us too far ahead of God's timing? She posed softly, breaking the silence. The question hung in the air like incense, igniting new thoughts, sparking conversations. As they leaned into it collectively, Eleanor felt the flames flicker brighter. What revelation awaited them in this quest for alignment with God's voice? Will their commitments truly lead them toward divine blessings, or will they face unexpected trials along the way? The answers awaited in the week to come, and with it, the promise of transformation. The following week dawned, and with it, a sense of anticipation permeated the air. Eleanor and her friends agreed to meet again, eager to share their journeys of discernment. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues across the old wooden table that held their candles, a warmth seemed to spread among them, a sacred presence, inviting them deeper into their quest. Eleanor opened the gathering by inviting each person to express their experiences. What nudges have you felt? How have you recognized them in your daily rhythms? Her heart raced with expectation as she looked from face to face, sensing the stirrings of something profound. Clara was the first to speak, her voice soft yet resolute. This week, I carved out mornings for stillness. I sat in my favorite chair, the sun spilling through the window, painting the walls with light. That's where I felt God prompting me to reach out to an old friend. It felt like a gentle nudge, urging me to check in. So I did, and it turns out she needed to know she's not alone. The group nodded in understanding, smiles brightening the dim light around them. Sarah chimed in next, her eyes wide with discovery. I had a busy week planned, but there was an afternoon when I felt as if I should stop by the local shelter instead. I hesitated, those plans loomed large, but God kept nudging me, so I went. I discovered such joy in serving those who were struggling. I realized my small act could shine His light, and how easy it is to miss those moments if we're not listening. Mr. Parker's face broke into a knowing grin. Isn't that just like God? Sometimes the distractions in life can pull us so far from those divine moments. I felt a stirring as well. In the midst of my duties, I heard His whisper while working in my garden. I decided to invite my neighbor over to share some vegetables. Our conversations blossomed into a new friendship, right there amid the rows of tomatoes and greens. Eleanor felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. These stories, how they reflect His love. Yet we must remain vigilant. Each story holds lessons, but we must also ask, were we sensitive to His timing? Were we faithful? Are we still guarding that sacred quiet space? Her question seemed to linger, grounding the conversation in reflective silence. The candles flickered gently, as if echoing their collective contemplation. Just then, a wavering voice broke through. Sarah hesitated, then spoke, her thoughts tumbling out. What if my eagerness to serve pushes me too far? I don't want to miss understanding the gentle guidance in my actions. Eleanor's heart clenched for a moment. That's true, Sarah. It's so easy to get ahead of God's plans, even when we're doing good. It's important we pause and listen deeply, allowing His Spirit to guide us. Clara nodded vigorously. Perhaps we need to pay closer attention to those small choices. What if those are the moments that create the pathway for greater revelations, the subtle things that seem insignificant? As their discussion unfolded, a sense of urgency hung in the air. They spoke of how easily impatience could masquerade as divine push.
With each revelation, they saw more clearly the intricate dance of faith and timing, bewildered yet exhilarated by the mystery enveloping it all. Just when the conversation reached a crescendo, Eleanor lowered her voice, creating an intimate atmosphere. Let us make a commitment. This week, let's intentionally seek those quiet moments. How can we align ourselves with his gentle nudges while being patient in his timing? The atmosphere transformed into an altar of hearts opened in vulnerability. They pledged to guard their sacred spaces, to listen attentively, and to embrace the unknown. But as they closed their meeting, a profound unease nestled within Eleanor. What unseen trials might arise from their commitment? In the quiet of her heart, she prayed for clarity.
Why did it feel like they were stepping onto holy ground, bound for a deeper plunge into the divine? Yet the journey ahead remained shrouded in mystery. Would they truly recognize the choices that would lead them into the fullness of his blessings? The week passed like a river flowing through Eldermere, each day marked by a gathering storm of anticipation. Eleanor felt the weight of their commitments pressing upon her, a divine calling resonating deep within the soul of the village. She kept close to her heart the whispered prayers and choices she sensed shivering in the air, each one a thread weaving them closer to God's design. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, Eleanor prepared for their next meeting with renewed vigor. The flicker of candlelight began to fill her humble living room, casting a warm glow that spoke of possibilities yet to unfold. When the villagers arrived, their faces glistened with the anticipation of sharing stories nonetheless threaded with both joy and vulnerability. "Welcome, dear friends," Eleanor greeted, her heart swelling as she took in the collected warmth of kindred spirits gathered in faith. "Tonight, let us reflect upon the choices we've made, guarding those sacred moments that led us to deepen our understanding of God's presence." Clara was quick to speak, her voice vibrant with excitement. "This week I focused on those quiet mornings. It was on Thursday that I sat in prayer and felt a gentle push to invite not only my friend but also her children to our church picnic. That simple invitation turned into laughter and joy. We shared faith over hot dogs and cookies, and I saw God at work." "I had a similar experience," Sarah added, enthusiasm shimmering in her gaze. "I followed the nudge to connect with my estranged sister. We shared old wounds, and it felt like healing was woven into every word. The openness we embraced rekindled our bond, and I realized God used my vulnerability for his glory." Mr. Parker nodded solemnly. "Bless you both. I wish to listen more. I tucked away the busyness just as we committed. I found that when I slowed down, God revealed pockets of grace. I helped a neighbor repair his fence and discovered an untold story of sorrow that he was wrestling with. Those simple choices diversified into something healing for both of us." Eleanor listened intently, her spirit lifted by their revelations. But then a soft heaviness settled over her heart. "While we've shared beautiful stories," she began, her voice steady yet gentle, "we must remember to tread lightly. Are we truly recognizing the subtle deceptions that may seek to mislead us amidst our enthusiasm?" An air of contemplation fell upon the group. Clara's brow furrowed, and Sarah's shoulders sank slightly. What if we're so eager to respond to God's nudges that we overlook the possibility of our own desires influencing those choices? Clara's voice was a whisper laced with honesty. Eleanor felt the impact of those words. "Yes,"
she exclaimed. "Let us be vigilant, dear friends. We must anchor ourselves firmly in prayer, ensuring our choices align with truth rather than mere impulse. Remember, the enemy can disguise distractions cleverly, transmuting them into seemingly good intentions." From his chair, Mr. Parker cleared his throat, his expression contemplative. "What happens when we find ourselves in those moments of confusion? How do we ensure our choices align with God's desires rather than our own?" "A challenge we all face," Eleanor replied. "We need discernment, which comes through deepening our relationship with God. It's in the quiet moments, the sacred conversations with Him, where we learn to filter our hearts. Each choice we make offers an opportunity for growth, revealing who we are." The room fell silent, illuminated by flickering candlelight, each heart open and receptive. As she gazed around the circle, Eleanor sensed God stirring their collective hearts. What if we decide to share our journey of discernment with one another? Let's meet at the end of this week to reveal how we've navigated the choices our hearts lead us to. Eyes bright with purpose, they all nodded, a pact formed in the sanctity of togetherness. An electric energy thrummed in the room, each heartbeat synchronized with the divine rhythm, a shared journey brimming with faith and potential. Yet beneath the surface, Eleanor held a dawning awareness.
What if this growing unity set into motion unforeseen trials that might threaten their newfound resolve? She lifted her gaze to the heavens, whispering, "Guide us, St. Jude, as we seek your path and navigate the jagged edges of uncertainty." In that sacred silence, a warmth bathed the room, encompassing them all, cleansing each of their fears. The faintest whisper of hope began to blossom within her heart. What unforeseen blessings, and perhaps even trials, awaited them as they continued down this delicate dance of faith, vulnerable to both the light and the shadows? As they closed their gathering amidst gentle laughter and shared prayers, she could feel it, a miraculous metamorphosis already unfolding within the fabric of their spirits, a journey destined to illuminate their lives in ways they could scarcely imagine. It was a beautiful new beginning, yet the answers lay ahead, shimmering like lingering stars in an evening sky. And so they walked forth together, hearts entwined, ready to weave their stories into the greater tapestry of faith and divine intention. For you, dear friends, this is the moment to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss powerful stories of faith and divine grace. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this sacred message far and wide. Comment below with your thoughts, reactions, or your own testimonies about this profound ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of hope and truth.
Together, let's illuminate the path.